Okay, on today's edition of Very Real Things About the United States That Horrify People in Other Countries, yes, our corporations write the laws here. Hold on, I'll pull up the data. Just a sec. Okay, so here in the United States, corporations are allowed to donate money to political campaigns. And more or less, whoever has the most money to spend on their campaign is the person who wins the election. Like, between 80 to 90% of the time, anyway. So, this is a list of some of the top donors politically in 1 year's time period, and you'll notice some corporations on here like SpaceX, that's Elon Musk's company. Also, Coinbase. There's also some special interest groups listed as well. Bloomberg, that's a corporation. Blackstone Group, that's a corporation. You get the picture. Just gonna ignore this one for now because it's not relevant to the video, but hi. Okay, yeah, all right, moving on. So, once a candidate is elected, the general idea is that the corporate donor who spent the most money on them is going to get priority access and a little bit of legal protection. Like the mafia. What could be wrong with this setup, right? Heck of a country we got here. Okay, so this means that very, very often corporations have access to suggest laws and regulations to our congresspeople. Now, when this happens, corporations are supposed to draft up something called model legislation. It's like a sample of a type of bill they want to get passed. And then they hand it over to the congressperson they donated to, who is supposed to make changes. However, one investigative report found 10,000 bills that were almost entirely copied from that model legislation, sample legislation drafted by places like corporations, and more than 2,100 of them were signed into law with no changes from the model or sample legislation drafted. So, what kinds of laws are presented that are literally written by corporations? A great example is asbestos laws. See, we actually kind of had an epidemic where a bunch of asbestos companies were putting forward laws that kind of positioned them as victims of greedy, mean people suing them all the time for asbestos-related health issues. So, asbestos companies drafted new legislation that ideally would make it harder for people with mesothelioma to sue them. And they hoped that this additional protection would mean that people with mesothelioma would just die before they had time to actually pursue legal action. Yeah. Now, that's a quite literal way that corporations are writing laws, but we have a way that's a little less precise, too. Do you remember last year when all the airplanes started falling out of the sky? It's really been a heck of a year, hasn't it? Okay, well, that's because a few years ago, airline lobbying groups petitioned the U.S. government to deregulate their industry. This is a little less direct because they didn't actually write the exact laws, but through lobbying, they influenced them. And these are the two ways that corporations in the United States just like make the government or something. I don't know. It's not going great over here. We're not doing super great over here. I don't know if you guys notice. It gets a little worse every year, too.